I was thinking about it, what I wanted to talk about today with you, and I got the answer about 5 minutes ago when I was meditating in the room. And I realized that most of the time what we do is we try to use our educated to think things through. But really, it's about quieting the educated and letting innate speak through you. And I was thinking back to what I heard when Dee Dee said that the purpose of chiropractic was to reunite man the physical with man the spiritual, so that the finite might know itself to be infinite. And I thought about that, so that the finite might know itself to be infinite, so that you may know who you are in your source and whose source is in you. Because there is only one source. There's only one power that allows your body to heal. There's only one power that allows your body to express health. There's only one power that allows you to express love. There's only one place, one source of love, one source of prosperity, one source of joy, one source of happiness. And the whole purpose of chiropractic is to reunite man to that power, to that source, so that he may know himself to be infinite. Now, I thought through, I went to Life University, graduated in 2001. I couldn't grasp that. I didn't even know what the heck that meant. But as I live life and I get older and I'm in practice more, what I'm starting to recognize is that if I can get quiet enough to let innate run the show in my life, things happen effortlessly. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to share with you some of the things that I've been up to and how if you let innate run the show, it's effortless. It doesn't have to be so much force and trying and efforting. All that's coming from the ego or their educated mind. And so I was at DE, I think it was 2 DEs ago, and they were talking about a trip to Panama. And I thought to myself, wow, that sounds great. Because the patients don't understand anything you're saying. You don't understand anything they're saying. All you're doing is adjusting. And I said, man, that's what I want to create in my office. So it just happened to be that I had a church talk coming up in 2 weeks, and I went to the church, and there was about 200 people in the audience. Nobody told me, but the audience is Spanish. Now, I don't speak Spanish. So I get to the front of the platform, and they say there's a translator here waiting to translate for you. Now, nobody gave me a heads up on that. So I'd say a sentence, he'd say a sentence, I'd say another one, he'd say another one. And I can tell you that I trained staff for about 15 years to do what this person was doing naturally. He naturally was speaking out of his heart. He had the right tone. He had the right conviction. He didn't even know what I was saying, but he had all the right traits. Because innate provided that. I didn't. I couldn't even plan that. So we're done with the talk, and I think we scheduled 60 new people to come into the office, and I said, I don't know what to do with them when they come in because I still don't know how to communicate to them. So I asked the translator, his name was Alberto, I said, Alberto, would you mind coming in to translate? I'm going to probably need you a couple of times this week, but we scheduled the majority of people on Monday. He said, no problem. So he showed up Monday, and I was there Monday, and I think we went through 35 new patient exams. And we scheduled everybody to come back for their doctor report. And I thought to myself, I'm going to need like 7 translators to process this whole thing. So we got 7 people to show up on a Wednesday night to a doctor report where every person had a translator. Every family had a translator with them. And then Alberto, I said, man, he's just such an amazing kid. He's going to be either a pastor or a chiropractor. I think by the time we're done, he's going to be a chiropractor. Or maybe a pastor with a chiropractic degree, one or the other. And I said, would you mind working on Monday and Tuesday nights? Because all these Spanish patients signed up, their families signed up. Nobody in my office speaks Spanish except for Alberto now, but he's there. And right after that, I got another Spanish talk. Different congregation of people, a church, went in there, did a talk. Alberto came with me. They said, you need a translator? I said, no, I have my own. It was about 2 weeks later. And he shows up, and we do the talk, and we schedule all these people, and they come in the door. Now, here's the funny thing. About 3 weeks of this going on, I started realizing I got to talk twice as much now. I thought maybe that wasn't such a great idea. But here's the thing. I know it was the right thing to do, and I'm willing to do it. But what was really interesting is that I thought about how did that all come about? How did it all come about? I impressed a thought into my subconscious, into the friend within, and then innate went to work to provide it in my life. And I thought about how many thoughts are we impressing our subconscious mind with on a day-to-day basis, And, everything you hear, everything you think about, everything you say out loud, every time you declare a word. See, the crazy thing is you're saying them out here, but you don't realize they're going in. They're going right into your subconscious, impressing it, and then innate goes to work on providing whatever it is that you're impressing in your subconscious mind. And I thought about how is it that I can let innate run the show more in my life? Because when my educated gets involved, it sucks. I try to control everything. I try to, I don't know why things are happening the way they are, why a practice is up one day or down the other day, or why Mary Jones decided not to come back. And, I could sit there and try to analyze it for 2 hours. And I realized, when I get into my educated brain, I attract a whole bunch of analytical patients. Because they're just a reflection of me. And I could study 18 hours to learn how to communicate to an analytical person, to make them understand the idea that there's one power that allows them to be healthy and heal, and if the first bone in the neck is out of position, that life is blocked. And our job is to unlock it so that power to heal, that power to be healthy can express itself, allowing you to express 100% of your potential. And I had one of those patients come in. They question everything. Why do I need an x-ray? Why did I need to fill out the paperwork? Why do I need to sign off on the consent form? Why don't I see the doc? Why don't I, everything's a why? And what I recognized is that was just a reflection of myself, that I was in my educated. See, I think the most amazing thing about life is that every experience that you go through gives you insight on what you need to clear within yourself. And if you have a whole bunch of people judging you, then that means that you're judging yourself or you're judging too many other people. You just need to love a little bit more. So what I did is I said I need to go home and I need to clear myself and get quiet enough, because the thing I love the most is communicating to people who are simple. And when I say simple, I mean smart, but simple. They understand that there are laws, principles that govern health, well-being in their life, and they're in their heart, and they're just loving. And they're not too educated to get skeptical. They're not too analytical to get in their own way. And I think that all of us in this room, there's this battle that takes place within between this educated mind who wants to understand everything and how it's unfolded and why it's unfolded and where it's supposed to come from and when is it supposed to come and where the money's going to come from and where the patient's going to come from and, all that. And then you got this infinite being, this innate intelligence that is connected to the whole, that'll tend to you and take care of you and provide for you and love you and source all your needs. And the difference is being able to recognize how to quiet the educated enough for that innate to be able to go to work in your life and go to work in your health and go to work in your practice. And what I recognized is that one of the key attributes to letting that happen is surrender. But you're not surrendering meaning letting go. You're surrendering to something bigger than you. You're surrendering to something called universal intelligence or innate intelligence that'll organize and take care of you if you allow it and don't get in the way. And when I'm on track and innate is coming through me, what I realize is that we just attract a different group of patients, and it's beautiful, and it's perfect. I was doing a doctor report, and I was expecting a lot of people to be there. And not a lot of people showed up. And as I'm doing this talk, first thing that occurred in my educated mind is, why are there less people? So I needed to take some time. And you see, my staff knows me. Thank God they know me, because they know just leave him alone. Because he's trying to get quiet. The last thing I want to do is engage in educated conversation. So I get quiet enough to surrender it. And I start this talk, and one more person joins the talk, and it happens to be a bishop. And now I'm up there, and I'm just blasting him with the principle, loving on him, and telling them that the power that made the body heals the body. There's only one power that allows you to be healthy, one power that allows you to heal, and if this bone is out of position and locked up, life can't express, power can't express, you can't heal, and I was going at it. And here's the funny thing, he happens to be a bishop of a church. Now, I didn't know. He came in late in the middle of my doctor report. So we end and we break out and we go over his results, and he says, I'd love for you to do that in my church. I said, all right. Now, here's the thing. My educated brain just finished doing a church talk on the same day of the sermon, and it didn't work out well because when the sermon ended, everybody left. So here's my educated going, I'll never do a talk on the same day of a sermon. And he says, I want you to do it on the same day as the sermon. And I'm like, oh, man. But here's the funny thing about it. He says, here's what I'm willing to do. He says, I will speak for 10 minutes and let you run the entire sermon and get them to get this message because it's more important than anything else I can do on that one day. Now, I made it a point to go visit him. And it was Wednesday night. It was Wednesday during the day, and I met with him, and he said, look, he said, you know, we have this church here, and there's about 50 people. He says, but I will make it my life's mission to get your message out to every church in the area. I've been in this ministry for 23 years. I know all the political figures. I know this person. I know this person. I know this person. And I know that every person needs to hear this because they don't understand that if this one bone is out of position, life can't express. And if that one bone is corrected, they can heal and be healthy. How come it's so simple for him to get it? But we as chiropractors still are trying to figure it out. We got division amongst chiropractors. They're not sure. You know, maybe we need to teach them more about the brain-based stuff. Hey, there's nothing wrong with knowing the brain-based stuff for yourself. But if you're going to attract a whole bunch of brain-based people, I promise you'll see 20 people a week. If you're going to attract people of faith, then your faith has to grow. If you're going to attract people of love, then your love has to grow. Everything you're getting is a reflection of you. So if there's more love in you, if there's more faith in you, then you attract loving, faithful people. And what I realized, which was amazing about taking care of the Spanish congregation, is that they already knew. See, they didn't hear my words. What's really interesting is when I was speaking, they weren't even paying attention to the translator. They were watching me. Because what they were doing was feeling me. Because they wanted to feel the love. There was an innate to innate communication that transcended, and that's all they wanted. They just wanted to know that I loved them. They wanted to know that I care about them. They wanted to know that I was strong in what I was saying, that I was convicted, that I had authority, that I had faith in God. They weren't scared because I used that word. Sometimes people say, Dr. Ray, using the word God shouldn't belong in your practice. And I say, well, if I want to fill my practice with God people, then I might as well use the word. Now, if I don't use that word, I won't attract any of them. So it's all based on what do you want to attract in your office. And I realized that one of the things I wanted to attract are people that are loving, people that are connected, people that are of faith. And that's the thing, is that when I became clear and I made my decision to do that, regardless of what anybody else thought, they started coming in. And opportunities opened up. Now, I didn't set up those opportunities. Those doors opened. Innate opened the door, and I walked through. I was obedient. I listened. But I didn't open the door. Innate opened it for me. And what I realized is that as I go into the next 20 years of my practice, the first 15 were great, but they were so driven with action that I compensated for disconnection with action in a lot of ways. And I'm recognizing that if I'm staying connected more, things happen easier in my life. And so I wanted to share with you, one of the ways is to surrender it all. What are you surrendering? Your fears, your worries, your doubts, your judgments. How do you surrender it? Take some nice deep breaths, recognize they're there. And as you draw attention to them, they'll naturally release. Because the purpose of the adjustment is to reunite man the physical to man the spiritual so that the finite might know itself to be infinite. For you to know yourself as innate intelligence, for you to know who you really are, it requires surrender. It also requires love. And I realized that the opposite of love is not hate. It's just judgment. And I think that as chiropractors, sometimes we judge ourselves more than anybody on the planet. You know, you could be saving lives, making the biggest difference, and people walking around worried about a word they used the wrong way or whether or not they should bill an insurance company. I mean, come on, you're saving lives. Now, can you get clearer? Yeah. Can you get better? Yeah. Are you human? Yeah. But you got people out there that are committing all sorts of heinous crimes, and there's no judgment in what they're doing to themselves. And then you got a chiropractor who's saving thousands of people, judging himself for everything he does he thinks is wrong. And I think that needs to stop. And I think how you build anything, how you build unity is love. And you can't love anybody else until you love yourself. And if you're looking for validation or approval from others, you're in the wrong field. I know we get together, and sometimes we go, okay, hopefully I'll get some validation in here. But the people I look up to in my life, they're not looking for validation for anybody other than themselves. That's what love is. It comes from within. It comes from your source. It comes from your ability to... You see, the only thing you need to feel more love is to let go of your own judgments. It's who you are. At the core of who you are is pure love. At the core of who you are is pure joy. At the core of who you are is pure happiness. At the core of who you are is oneness, bliss. And the only thing that interferes with it are the judgments, the fears, the worries, the doubts that we put on ourselves. And what I recognize, which is really interesting, is that if we're judging others, we're just judging that part in ourselves. So really the answer is to love more, surrender more, praise more, count your blessings more, and do everything you can to get into a state of thoughtlessness so that innate can run the show in your life. Because the more quiet your educated is, the more innate will go to work. The less quiet your educated is, the more innate can't work because you're disrupting it. It's like a child thinking they know what's best when the parent knows what's best for him. Your father, the source, knows what's best for you. But you need to surrender to that. You need to love that. You need to embrace that. You need to walk in faith. And most importantly, if we can do more of that, then our patience will follow. Because I thought about this last thought, is that everybody in your office is like your community, your congregation. And what is the message you're sending them? And what are the talks that you're doing? You see, I want to do a workshop. I figured, you know what? The next workshop I'm doing is on prosperity in my office. I'll tell you why. Two reasons. Number one, I want to make sure I'm connected to make everybody know that they deserve to be prosperous, and how they do it is with their thinking, not with their action. But you see, I want to teach my patients to be leaders in the community so that when they step out, they're joyful, blissful, healthy, and prosperous. And I don't think anything is wrong with any of those things. In fact, I think they deserve all those things, but they need to be an example in the community, because how many people are walking around experiencing 100% life from within, fully connected, and knowing that everything they want in their lives is theirs for the taking? They deserve it all. And they're blessed because their source wants to provide everything in their life. And so the last thought I want to leave everybody here with today is, when you go back on Monday, do everything you can so that your educated is working less in your life and your innate is working more. I'm going to make that commitment to you guys that that's what I'm doing in my own life. And when you reach for a goal and you reach for something that's impossible, where you know there's no way you could have done that with your educated. And make sure to count those times and write them down, because that's where your trust comes from and that's where your faith comes from, is knowing that there's something bigger than you working in your life. And if you're a chiropractor and you're in this room, or you're a student, or you're in this profession at all, I promise you, you've been chosen. And that something will work in your life. But you got to learn how to quiet your educated enough to allow it to. Love and appreciate everybody. Thank you.